This is The Politics of Everything, and I'm your host, Amber Daines. Welcome to the podcast where we want to discuss the politics of everything, from money to motherhood, nutrition to narcissism, startups to secularism, the environment to equality, and much more. Our guests are experts in their field or topic of choice, even if you've not yet heard their name. This is a bipartisan podcast, so while we love exploring varied views and get a buzz from a healthy debate, by no means is this a one-sided forum for any one political view. So please listen up and enjoy the politics of everything. The modern reality is that if we're lucky enough to live a long life, we need to plan for our aged care. As life expectancy is predicted to be well over 100 for people being born today, our societal needs have to get to grips with how we're looked after in those older years. Many families and people involved in the long-term care of ageing loved ones know too well that the pressure to make such big, emotional and costly decisions can prove to be a minefield. Today, I'm in conversation with Danielle Robertson, founder and CEO of DRC Care Solutions, which she launched in 2015 to fill in the gaps in the care sector and meet the numerous calls for assistance in navigating the services offered in the aged, disability and home care system. Danielle is my guest to discuss the politics of aged care. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Amber. Thank you for having me.
Look, you've worked in the aged care sector for more than 3 decades. How did you initially get into this area of work and how has this sector changed over that period?
It's an interesting question. My mum actually gave birth to me in 1966, and as a result of that, she was very, very sick. And she actually ended up starting a company called Dial and Angel in 1967. So I was only a tiny tot and I was the third child. So I had 2 older sisters, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old sister, and I was the brand new baby. Number one, women didn't start businesses in 1967, but as a result of her being so unwell when she'd had me, she had rung around a few government organisations, the local council, to see if she could get some help in the home. She had moved down from Brisbane. She had no family support and she didn't really want to rely on neighbours or friends to help her. And basically she did get over her illness and was vacuuming the floor one day and thought, I wish I could just have dialed an angel, just someone to run a vacuum over the floor, prepare a meal, drop one of the girls at school, one at preschool and help with the newborn baby, because there were no services like that. My dad had actually rung Ku-ring-gai Council and said to them, is there a service like this? And they said, yes, there is, but you should have booked 9 months ago. There is an emergency housekeeper's service.
Wow, like you're going to know 9 months in advance what you're going to need.
And he said to them, you know, if my wife had known she was going to be ill 9 months ago, she wouldn't have fallen pregnant in the first place. So it was an interesting
absolutely.
situation.
That's a really good point.
So getting into the aged care.
I know Dial and Angel, that's incredible that she started that business so long ago. So you've obviously grown up with this being a part of your life. This idea of care.
It was a family business. And, you know, my grandmother worked in the business for my mum for a period of time. My sister worked in the business for a period of time. My second sister worked in the business for a period of time. I was the child that said I would never work in the family business. And out of all of us, I spent 28 years in the business until we sold it in 2014. But look, I had a passion for helping people. I'd studied hospitality management and realised it wasn't for me. Worked in the hotel industry and sector for a couple of years before coming into the family business. Mum felt at that time that I should do something worthwhile and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So she said, well, come and work with me for 3 or 4 months and see what you want to do. And, you know, 28 years later, that's where I was. But, you know, Mum retired in 2003 and she'd always said to me, you know, what do you want out of your life? What do you want? And I said, I want your job. You know, so I was being sort of groomed and mentored by my mother to take over this business that had grown like Topsy. We became a national organisation. We had 10 offices around Australia. 3 of those were franchised. So I got some exposure in franchising as well as the aged care industries, the disability care industries. And it was interesting, when the business first started, it was more home help. It was helping people with their domestic tasks and the childcare side of things. But as Mum grew older and started ageing, we were getting a number of clients who were saying, look, you wouldn't be able to help me with my elderly mother. I've mum's just come out of hospital. I'm a bit worried about her living alone. I've got a child with a disability. I really need some respite. So that's how our aged and disability care services expanded and became, it wasn't like, it was just organic growth. And it was just because we were supplying such top quality carers at reasonable rates that people thought, gee, this is a great idea. It was sort of the initial outsourcing of services, which was so unusual in those days. And as I said, I came into the business in 1986. We could see massive changes to the industry in aged care and disability care because more people were wanting to remain at home with care. And the government have certainly, been on board with that. We're making significant changes just this year, actually, to give the funding for home care packages to the consumer rather than the provider. So that's sort of my grounding that came into the industry, but it's all learnt. I hit the ground running, learnt the whole business from the ground up. So from recruitment and HR through to advertising, marketing, business development to IT. I've never had any exposure to that, and I learnt on the ground there and had to develop systems and put in systems there, processes, policies. We became accredited, ISO accredited in late 2010. So, we went through enterprise agreements. It was such a learning curve for me. I grew exponentially, professionally and personally in that time. I had a confidence. I felt comfortable in speaking to people, public speaking to forums. It helped me. And being a family business, it is very, very different to the corporate sector.
That's incredible. What a story. I'm just blown away by that journey, and all that period of time, the changes you would have seen. And I guess, we look at today and aged care facilities can be prohibitively expensive for many older people. And the reality is, while people have this idea, and I think I'm one of them too, that we're going to stay in our own homes forever or our extended family are going to come and look after us. I mean, the reality is modern life isn't like that. So how does one go about obtaining the best quality of aged care at a reasonable price?
Yes, look, do your research, do your homework, engage an experienced person to help. Really, you need to be guided by people, who know the aged care industry. Don't limit yourself to aged care facilities. And this is what I'm out there speaking to so many different groups of people about is, the old-fashioned way was that if you got old, you moved into a residential care facility, and that's it. That was your only option. Now we do have other options, such as retirement living. We have assisted living. We have group homes for dementia care. So it's thinking about what you want and what you need, and if you have the financial means to cope with that, what government funding you can get. And to do your research on the facilities themselves, if you're looking for a facility, make sure that you're getting feedback from people who have got residents in there or family members in there. Go and visit them. Feel it's like a look and feel of an organisation. If you're going into anywhere, you need to go in and feel that that's going to be suit your loved one. But, also go with your gut instinct. I mean, I've been into so many residential care facilities and some are wonderful and, you walk in and they smell fresh and clean. Others you walk into and you just know that this is not the cleanest environment for your loved one. And look, others have got fantastic care but not such great environments. Others have got fantastic environments and not such good care. So it's really hard, and that's why I'm saying you really need to do your research and start now. Don't wait until a life event intervenes. A lot of people don't even think about aged care.
I think that's a fantastic point, just to pick you up on that, Danielle, because it's happened in my own extended family where it's the elephant in the room. It's almost like wills or something like that. Things that people don't want to talk about is this end of your life care in some ways. And, it gets to the point that someone has a major fall or they get cancer or that, they're basically in the position where, okay, they can't go home now. What do we do? And I think that's where your options are very, very limited.
Correct. And that's why I'm saying, when I speak at a number of financial planners, dealer groups and their financial planners, client seminars, accountant seminars, estate planners seminars, where they've got their clients coming in. And many of people in the room are around my age, so 50-ish, from 45 to 55, there's a number of us in there in the room. interested in understanding what the options are. And then I'm saying, please go home and speak with your parents who are in their 70s and 80s about what they want. Because if it does intervene, or if they lose capacity, say they do end up with dementia, or if they've had a stroke, or that something that they can't actually get their words out, then you're stuck. You actually have to be, if you're the power of attorney or enduring guardian, you have to make decisions on behalf of that person. I say, have the difficult discussions now. Get them documented. And I mean, this is something that I've been harping on for years. I can't believe how many people don't have wills or powers of attorney or enduring guardians. It's absolutely amazing. Start now the discussions, have those difficult discussions, and just bring it up by saying.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think that's the eye-opener. I've had the experience, and I know that we won't do that again with other family members because, we've been there, and it's not easy. And particularly if there's multiple siblings involved and other people to make the decision, and, you kind of, you're guessing what that person's going to want or need.
And the siblings all have different ideas. One of the siblings might say, look, put mum into care. I think it's going to be the best thing. And the other 2 or 3 siblings are saying, no, we want her to keep her at home. That was what she wanted. And the one that's saying put her into care maybe wasn't across that conversation to say, I really want to stay at home, and can we make it do as much as we can, whether we have to, get equity release for the home to pay for this, or whether the kids chip in, or whether the people have got their own cash to actually get the person's wants and wishes adhered to get the best outcome for them.
No, it's great advice. So with what you do these days, you have what we call a care concierge package that corporates are going to embrace. And I think this is a new idea for me. What sort of responsibilities does the corporate environment have to support its employees in helping make these kinds of decisions?
Look, a number of large corporations, and I'm talking one of the big 4 banks, contacted me and said, look, we're seeing a huge number of our staff, and I'm talking about 30% of our staff, this is what they've said to me, have caring responsibilities for aged care, disability care, or childcare responsibilities. 16% of those people have aged care and disability caring responsibilities. And what the corporation was saying is that they're seeing that these people are taking time off work to try and negotiate care for their loved one, whether it be emergency care, whether it be just respite, whether the person is living with them and that they've got medical appointments that they need to attend to. So they're saying to us, how can we alleviate that pressure and the time involved for these people taking time off work? If by chance an employee has a member of family go into hospital and needs to find care, it can take them 4 to 6 weeks off work to try and figure out what to do. If they don't know the aged care system or disability care system, it's a minefield. So what the corporation's saying is, look, we'll assist you by getting somebody to assist you to navigate the system to get back done and dusted and back at work very quickly. So it's a win-win situation for them. It's a great business case that they can save a hell of a lot of money by having a person like me come in and assist their employees to find the best outcome of care for their loved one.
It's a fantastic solution. I think, it'd be great if more corporates jumped on board because, you're right, it is time consuming. And if you bring in experts, it's like anything. When you bring in the people who do it every day like yourself, it surely takes that, that pressure and that burden away. And then the employee can also get on with their job. And
I've seen it not just in large corporations. I mean, I'm part of Family Business Australia, which is an association for family businesses, and a number of them. And, there's one particular gent who's got a company here in New Zealand. He has 350 staff and they're factory workers. And he said to me, I'd like to pay the first hour of your time to assist any of my employees to navigate the system so that they can then, get back to work as quickly as possible and support them, because a lot of them who are factory workers, English may be a second language. They don't know where to go or what to do for their loved one. The loved one may be living at home with them, and all of a sudden they're taking a hell of a lot of time off work and they're worried about it. So the employer is saying, how can we assist you, and bringing in my services. So it's not just that large corporations are doing it. There's other smaller providers that are saying this is a value add to our employees.
No, it's excellent. So I want you to get your crystal ball out now, Danielle, and paint us a bit of a picture of what you think the aged care framework or system will look like in the near future. Where are we headed? We've talked about the different options we have, but is it going to change dramatically?
I think there'll be more options available. I think we're going to be seeing more shared accommodation. So rather than having massive residential care facilities that can house, 100 or 200 people, you're seeing more like the Group Homes Australia that have up to 10 residents with dementia, living with dementia, with 3 carers on site. I'm seeing what I feel will happen is there'll be more people aware. There's students who need accommodation who may be at university who can just stay and live with a elderly person just to cook them a meal or just to be there and make sure they're taking their medications. So I'm seeing quite a bit of innovation around that area. I'm seeing also smaller, almost like caravan village type situations where people are able, particularly low means clients, are able to afford a place where it's like a retirement village, but in a like smaller little lodges, I suppose you could call them, with maybe care on site if need be. So, I am seeing more and more options, and the innovations coming up. I think there's a lot of people coming up with different types of accommodation and care available to clients. But I think that's where it's heading. It's going to be more options for people, and at various rates too, because obviously not everyone has, a couple of $100,000 a year to pay for 24-hour care. You've got your low means clients, you've got a lot of people on pensions. So what happens to those people? So, I see that there'll be some different options for the lower means people in society.
Yes, it's interesting you talk about that. I did read something last week that in Tasmania they're piloting, I think, is it a whole village or a town that's
I love it.
for dementia, dementia patients. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on how that works. I mean, my first thought, my grandmother actually, my beloved grandmother passed away having had dementia for many years, about a decade ago. And she was in a high care facility because my grandfather wasn't in a position to take care of her at the final stages. And I did think, oh my goodness, is it going to be okay? Is that good to put a lot of people together who might be having a dementia experience?
Look, I think as long as there's good quality care available to the people as well, and, that those people that have behavioural issues are managed appropriately, and that you've got skilled carers that can manage that and have strategies in place to work with clients living with dementia to ensure that they are safe, that they're not going to be a risk to anyone else in the village. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I think there's going to be more and more little spots around Australia that are going to come up with innovations. They'll trial them and see how they go. There's in America, there's these places called memory care centres, very similar to the group homes that we have here. But I think there might be an option too. It's just a normal residence that's retrofit for dementia-specific clients that makes it safe, but it's in their own environment. They'd have old world charms around. They'd have the old sort of antique furniture, so it makes it feel like home to them. That they're not.
Which I think is really important. And I think that's something that maybe has been missing from some of the more traditional, options out there.
Well, I think they're more like hospitals, and, they're glorified hospitals, some of them, and you can smell it as soon as you walk in. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. You walk into a hospital and there's a certain smell, and you can walk into an aged care facility and it's got a certain smell. So if we can alleviate that and have it in a smaller situation in a residence, then, I think it's better. It's a win-win for the client, for the carers, and the outcomes for the people who have dementia.
Absolutely. So look, the government in Australia is looking at making standards of quality aged care more consistent. And I do wonder if this is really achievable. And I know that, a lot of it is a financially based industry. I know the private sector, for example, some of the beds in the part of Sydney where a lot of my family live, it can be up to $1 million to even get in.
Or over $1 million.
Probably over. This was several years ago. It was $1 million, and it was a private. We're Jewish, a private Jewish nursing home in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. But how consistent and achievable can these standards be when there is this kind of, financial pull on the system as well?
Look, I think it could be and should be achievable. It'll be easier on providers if currently they've got 4 sets of audits, and cross-checking is very time-consuming and costly if you have more than one site. So I think by sort of unifying the standards or making one standard, I think it is achievable. Currently there's accreditation, there's home care standards, there's Aboriginal Torres States, and then there's the transition care standards. So I'm believe that they are actually piloting the standards towards the end of 2017, and if adopted by the government will come into effect on the 1st of July next year. So there's plenty of not-for-profits in aged care as well as the for-profits, and unfortunately the carers are on some of the lowest wages around, yet we need good quality skilled staff. So that's going to create staff shortages because, it's a flow-on effect. So, the money that you're charging is got to pay for the staffing and the care, being provided, as well as the accommodation side of things, as well as food and all the added services that people need and want, such as physiotherapy and podiatry and the auxiliary health and allied health on top of that. So, the money's got to come from somewhere. But from the standards point of view, I certainly think it is achievable to get one model, and that should be across all care. It shouldn't matter if it's disability care or if it's aged care or if it's child care. There should be just one set of standards.
No, that's a really important point, I think. And if anyone from the government is listening, that's what we want. So what are some of the hot button topics that you speak about most commonly to those larger audiences in the sector? You do touched on the idea that you do a lot of speaking these days. What are some of the big kind of trending topics in this sector that you get demands to speak about?
The hot topics really are the options for care and what's available, because a lot of people have been blinkered and thinking that care means that you have to move into a residential care facility, which is like a nursing home. And, it's educating people about the different types of care available and the costs around that. Some of the other topic is, do I go into residential care versus staying at home, and the cost and versus availability. They're sort of hot topics that people want to understand. Is it cheaper to stay at home with care, or is it more expensive? And how, if you are going to residential care, where are you going to get that $500,000 RAD or $1 million RAD to go in there? Yes, you get that back. Once the person passes on, the estate gets that money back. But still, you've got to come up with the cash initially. And that's where we're seeing a number of equity release schemes coming in. And, rather than having to sell the family home just to get the money to put somebody in there, residential care facility, there's other options there, and people are interested in how can they do that without selling the family home. And another topic that always creates all sorts of debate is euthanasia, death and palliative care and how it's handled. That's a hot topic, and you've got to be very careful about making judgment or passing judgment on any issues around that. But it's having a good death, if they can say that, to make sure that that person isn't suffering, that they're in the environment that they want to be in, that they're out of pain, and that the loved ones are around them. And that's, to me, very, very important. But they're the sort of three sort of hot topics that, I'm speaking about. But yes, it's mainly the options for care that people are interested in because, as I said, traditionally it's always been about you get old, you move into a nursing home. But, that's very different these days.
Or God's waiting room, as they used to call it. I don't know if they use
my
that term
grandmother
anymore.
said that. She said, I'm not going in there because I know that I'm not coming out. I'm not alive anyway.
It's not the Hilton. Can't check out again. I'm a big believer that everyone's journey has inspirational people and mentors in their life, and it sounds like your mother was definitely one of them.
Yes.
Is there anyone else that comes to mind, and what do they teach you about career, business and life, really?
You know what? I've been surrounded by some amazing people professionally and personally in my 31 years in this industry. And, my mum has been absolute conduit to, I look at her at 1967, starting a business, 3 kids under the age of 6. You've got, she was helping my dad in his business. She is the epitome of a mentor. She guided, she never was condescending. She always listened to any ideas years that I had, we butted heads on more than one occasion in, obviously 20 odd years that we were working together.
It wouldn't be a family business if you didn't, I don't think.
Correct. But, as I said, I had two older sisters as well that worked in the business for a period of time, but we didn't have the closeness that Mum and I had and that clear line of communication. Mum always said, go with your gut, communicate. And one of the key things that I've learned over the years is to listen carefully. I think people forget to listen. We're all gusto and telling people about what we know and what we want to know and what we think we know. And, it's very, very important to listen. And I learnt that from Mum when I was very young, I was 19 in the business. And, as she said, you've got two ears and one mouth and, make sure that you use those in those proportions. So listen doubly as hard as you speak. So, I really believe she's been my mentor. As I said, I've been guided by so many people over the years. I've got a very good affiliation with Family Business Australia, which is, as I said, an association for family businesses. And actually, I'm now the chairman of New South Wales and ACT and on the national board because I have such strong, I suppose, connection to the family business industry. And I see that, there's so many struggles that happen with succession and exit planning and even this aged care piece. It just fits so nicely within that aged care at the Family Business Association. So, I'm very much involved there and I've learnt so many things from different family businesses over the years. And, they're not just small businesses and I'm very keen to sort of express that you've got the big businesses, that you've got Kennards, you've got AH Beard, you've got Two Men in a Truck, you've got national organisations, you've got Cooper's Beers, you've got Scenic World. There's huge businesses there that, there's a misconception that family businesses are small businesses. But, I've learnt so much of, there's a lot of failures that happen, but there's also some wonderful successes. And you can learn from the failures. I've learnt over the years watching other businesses going through turmoil and coming out the other end. And it really helped me when Mum and I were going through succession planning and going through succession and exit planning for the business and exiting for Mum and selling the business. I've learnt so much over the years. And as I said, there's a number of mentors in the family business area that, have guided me as well.
That's fantastic. Just to wrap up, what are some of the tips that you have for anyone wanting to navigate the politics of aged care? Is there 1, 2 or 3 little short pieces of advice that you could give the audience?
Yeah, I did mention them previously, but do your research early, plan ahead and document what it is that your loved one wants so that everyone is aware of it. And use a trusted financial advisor or an estate planner or an estate lawyer, because that's absolutely key to making sure that you're being guided in the right way. Most of the financial planners that I work with are accredited in aged care. So make sure you do use those people that know the industry and make sure that you're not getting ripped off and that can guide you. So get that guidance. And as I said, just do your research and your discussions early in the piece before you need to.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It's a big topic and you have such a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for sharing it today. If you want to connect further with Danielle, we'll have some details on our show notes of how to reach her through social media and online. You've been listening to The Politics of Everything. Until next time, stay well. Thanks for listening today. If you've enjoyed The Politics of Everything, we thrive on feedback. So please add a short review and share the podcast with your network, your friends and family. I'm also always on the hunt for fabulous new guests. So if you've got a view to share and an idea how to get our listeners excited, please email me at amber@bespokecomms, that's BESPOKECOMMS.com.au, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Until next time,